You'll raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you have a seat, please. Sir, if you'll speak up a little bit in that smaller black microphone there in front of you, that'll help me hear.
Yes, sir.
And then if you'll tell me your first name and last name and spell them both.
First name is Timothy, Timothy. Last name Jensen, Jensen.
Thanks, sir. Questions?
I'm going to call you Officer Jensen. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Officer Jensen, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
And where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Lincoln County, Tennessee.
And you know what year it was that you graduated?
2002.
After you graduated high school, what did you do next?
Went to the Marine Corps.
And how long did you stay in the Marine Corps?
I was there for about 12 weeks, and they sent me home for a low blood sugar issue.
Okay. After your discharge from the Marine Corps, what did you do next?
I did some construction work, and then I began working for Lincoln County Sheriff's Department.
Okay. Now, I want to take you back to 2003. 2003, were you in any type of university or college setting?
I went to Cleveland State Community College for my police schooling, yes, sir.
Okay. And when you say your police schooling, how does that work? Can you take courses at Cleveland State that accredit you as a police officer?
Yes, sir.
And after the completion of your studies, what police department, if any, did you work for?
I worked for Deckard Police Department in Franklin County, Tennessee, after I graduated.
And how long did you work for Deckard County?
I was there for 4 years.
And I assume that you started out in the rank of patrolman, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you rise in the ranks at all?
I did. I was promoted to a corporal over patrol, and ultimately I went to narcotics.
Now, when did you join the Murfreesboro Police Department?
I came to Murfreesboro in April of 2008.
Okay. And in April of 2008, I assume that you started out in patrol again, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And then from patrol, did you go to any other division or any other section?
I currently work out of the police administration at the Annex, teaching a gang resistance program.
And how long have you been teaching the gang resistance program?
I've been here in this position for about 2 years now.
Okay. And I believe that program has a name or something, an acronym?
Yes, sir. It's called GREAT. It stands for Gang Resistance Education and Training.
Okay. Now, do you teach that course or teach part of that course at any of the local schools in Murfreesboro?
Yes, sir. I'm assigned to 2 elementary schools.
And what schools are those?
Mitchell Nelson Elementary School and Hobgood NASA Explorer School.
Okay. Now, apart from your income, and I realize they never pay police enough money, but did you have to have outside income to support yourself and family?
Yes, sir.
And what type of outside income did you procure?
Well, I was able to get a courtesy officer position at a local apartment complex, which it was able to give me free or reduced rent in order to do security, lock up the pools, check on the pools, answer noise complaints, things of that nature for them.
Okay. Now, how many apartment complexes have you worked for?
I've worked at 3 different apartment complexes, but for 2 different companies. I worked for Nottingham Apartments, and then I stayed there a year, and then I moved on to Raiders Crossing, and I was there for a year.
Okay. Your employment at Raiders Crossing, you remember what year it was that you started there?
I think 2010, if I can recall correctly.
Okay. And on March the 2nd, 2011, would you have been employed not only with the Murfreesboro Police Department, but also as a courtesy officer at Raiders Crossing?
Yes, sir.
Now, as far as the people involved in this case, did you have any first-hand knowledge, or did you know Shanterrica Madden prior to March the 2nd, 2011?
No, sir, I did not.
And as far as Tina Stewart, did you have any prior knowledge, or did you know her prior to March 2nd?
No, sir, I did not.
Were you aware of any problems between the two on March 2nd? As far as any prior problems?
No, sir.
Now, on March 2nd, did you work for the Murfreesboro Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do there, and when did you get off?
March 2nd, I believe, was a weekday. I would have went in to the office at 8 o'clock in the morning and got off around 4:30 in the afternoon.
Okay. And once you got off work, I assume that you went home, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And where did you live at that particular time?
I lived at the Woods at Greenland apartment complex at that time.
Okay. And is that also owned by the same company that owns Raiders Crossing?
Yes, sir, it is.
At some point in the late afternoon or early evening, did you receive a phone call from Jennifer Davidson?
Yes, sir.
And Jennifer Davidson is a staff member of the Raiders Crossing Apartments, is that correct?
Yes, sir, she was at that time.
Do you know what time it was that you received that particular phone call?
I believe it was roughly around 5:30 in the evening time, somewhere around in there, maybe a little bit later. I don't recall the exact time.
Okay. Could it have been 5:39?
Yes, sir, it could have been.
Okay. Now, as far as the times, when you realized what had happened, did you go back to your cell phone and look at it?
Yes, sir. The night the events transpired, and I was made aware of it, I went back to the scene and I was able to give the detective there the exact times off my call log of the phone that I had at that time.
And do you think you gave him as 5:39 as the time that you got the call from Miss Davidson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what information did Miss Davidson relate to you?
I don't remember exactly what she said. I know she called me. She was working, I guess, at the office at Raiders Crossing that evening, and she called me and said that there had been a complaint of the smell of marijuana in apartment 321 and asked if I could go up there to check it out. I think she even mentioned something about the complaint being from an athlete. She didn't mention any names. She just said there was an athlete that was there on a scholarship that didn't want to get in trouble. That's why she called, due to maybe a drug test for the athletic scholarship or something. She didn't want to get in trouble, so she called me to go up there and check it out.
And did you do that?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how long would it have taken you to get dressed if you needed to and actually get in your car and drive and arrive at the Raiders Crossing Apartments from your residence once you got that call?
If I had to get dressed, I know once I get home and take my uniform off, I'm home, and I don't, walk around looking like the police. So I would have put a badge on a necklace along with my firearm just to identify who I am and who I work for and why I'm there. And then I would have gotten in my car, and the two apartment complexes are just a couple miles apart. So I would say 10, maybe 15 minutes to get dressed and get in my car and get over there and make my way up 3 flights of stairs.
Would 5:45 be a fair approximation as to what time you got there?
Yes, sir, I would say so.
And you've already told us how you were dressed. Did you go on that particular occasion to apartment 321 at the Raiders Crossing?
I did.
And what did you do once you got there?
Once I arrived to the door, I knocked on the door. I believe Miss Madden answered the door. I told her who I was and why I was there. She invited me I asked her if I could come in, and she invited me into the common area. I asked if there was anybody else there. Miss Stewart was making her way down the hall since I had arrived. Miss Madden said she had a friend there. I asked her to go back and get her friend so I could talk to them all in the living room. When she went back to get her friend, Miss Stewart tried to tell me that she's the one that called, and I just kind of told her to be quiet. It didn't matter, because nobody needs to know who called. I was called, I was there, that's all that mattered.
Yes.
Once Miss Madden came back out, I asked who was in bedroom A. She acknowledged that was her bedroom.
Now, why would you ask who's in bedroom A?
Just to keep everything confidential about who called. If I would have went up there and went straight to bedroom A, it would have been pretty obvious who called in the complaint.
Did you know at the time that you received the call that the complaint was on something going on in bedroom A?
I was just told that the athlete was the one that made the call, and she came from bedroom B, which is the way the apartments are laid out. It was just a 2-bedroom apartment.
So by elimination, you knew that bedroom
Yes, sir.
A was the problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Miss Stewart, as far as how she was dressed, do you remember anything about how she was dressed when she came out of the room? Was she fully dressed, partially dressed, or do you remember?
I know she was fully dressed. I can't recall exactly what she was wearing, but I do know that she was fully dressed.
And at some point, did you ask permission from Miss Madden to search her room?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what had happened after you did that?
She said, yeah, that would be fine. She gave me permission to search her room. I went into her room, and her and her friend sat on the bed, and I really just looked around. I opened a couple of drawers and looked in. I found what I thought was a burned marijuana roach, hand-rolled cigarette in her room, and I picked it up and I smelled it, and it didn't smell like burned marijuana to me. Miss Madden did admit that she had smoked marijuana earlier in the day, but told me that she did not do it in the apartment. Also during the search, I found loose tobacco in her trash can, and I told her neither of the things that I found were necessarily illegal or against the rules, but I knew what it was for. She admitted to smoking marijuana earlier in the day. I've worked narcotics before. I know most of the time when you find that much tobacco somewhere that's, you've hollowed out a cigar or something. I said, it's not illegal, so I can't arrest you for it or, get you evicted for it or anything like that. I said, but it doesn't look good. You need to get rid of it. And she said she would do that.
Okay, let me stop you there. You mentioned a hollowed out cigar and marijuana. Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the interrelationship between the two and why that meant something to you?
A lot of times people, I guess it makes their marijuana taste better. I don't know exactly why they do it, but they'll buy a cigar and take a razor blade and cut it down the middle, dump all the tobacco out of it, and then use the marijuana or use the cigar leaf, that the cigar is made out of, to roll a joint, or what's called a blunt. So they'll put the marijuana inside of the cigar shell, basically just replacing the tobacco with marijuana.
Okay. Now, did you tell her, did y'all dispose of whatever it was that you found? It flushed it or threw it away, or?
Yes, sir. What I believe to be a marijuana roach, but I couldn't determine if it was or if it was not because it was so small and it didn't smell like burned marijuana to me.
Okay.
I believe she flushed that down the toilet. As far as a trash bag with the tobacco in it, she took that to the dumpster.
And did you go with her to the dumpster?
Yes,
Did you
sir.
accompany her outside?
Yes, sir. My business was done there. I had concluded there was nothing that I could write her a citation for or arrest her for. The roommates weren't arguing, so as I was walking out, I just went with her. She went with me to the dumpster.
Now, did you ever give her any instructions about going back and talking to her roommate or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you approximate how much time you actually spent once you knocked on the door until you left? And I know it's an approximation, but
I would say I was in the room or in the apartment talking to the ladies and searching the bedroom maybe 15 to 20 minutes. I think I left there around 6 o'clock, somewhere around in there. So if I got there at 5:45, I was probably there about 15 minutes.
okay. And after you left there, as part of your responsibility to report back to Miss Davidson?
I wouldn't know. I don't know if it would be exactly a responsibility, but I do call. If I get a call from the office, I'll call them back and say, hey, just left there, I didn't find anything, or this is what happened, just so they know. I mean, they're actually on the property. They're the ones that deal with the issue, so I like to let them know what's going on.
And you know whether that would have been approximately 6:05 p.m.?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
Now, once you left the apartment, what did you do next?
Once I left the apartment, Miss Madden threw the stuff in the dumpster. I went with her to the dumpster and came back to my car. My car was parked in front of their building. She went up the stairs to go back into the apartment. I got in my car and went back to the house, or back to my apartment.
Now, when you called Miss Davidson back at somewhere around 6:05, 6:04, somewhere they were in that neighborhood, where were you at?
I was in my car on my way back to my apartment.
So you'd already left the complex?
Yes, sir. I was just leaving.
Okay. Now, you got back home, and then when is the next time you heard anything concerning Raiders Crossing?
Once I got back to my apartment, I actually got my little girl, and we went to McDonald's. While we were at McDonald's, it was probably 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes later, I guess, Ms. Bigford, the apartment manager, the general manager over the properties, called and asked me what was going on there. And I said, well, I had a complaint of the smell of marijuana there. I went and checked it out and didn't find anything. She said, well, there's fire trucks and ambulances and police officers and everything there. I said, well, I don't know. I'll go back and see. So I went and dropped my daughter back off with my wife and then drove back over there, and that's when I learned that what events had transpired since my departure from there.
Okay, once you got back to Raiders Crossing Apartments, was it obvious the police were there and had been there for some time?
Yes, there was crime scene tape up, the fire trucks, ambulances, everything was there. I think they had some people in custody, and they were still in the process of trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do once you got back to the complex, being the courtesy officer?
Once I made it back to the complex and learned somewhat of the events that transpired, I notified a detective, and I don't remember exactly who I talked to. I think it was either Sergeant Keaton or another detective. I said, hey, they know who I am, I know who they are. I said, but I was just here a little bit ago for a complaint. You know, do you guys want me to write you a statement? And they said, yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. So I wrote them out a statement. And after I wrote them out a statement, I left. That was all of my involvement as far as that goes.
Now, the Raiders Crossing Apartments, is it in Rutherford County in state Tennessee?
It is.
Now, if I could have 1 second. Sure. That'd be all, Jeff.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir.
Officer Jensen, your first contact with Miss Madden came on March the 2nd. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You had no knowledge of Miss Madden prior to that. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. And one of your responsibilities, I suppose, is to monitor and report any illegal activity that you find within those two apartment complexes, correct?
When you say monitor or report, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that.
Well, if you see something going, General Newman asked you, do you get free rent?
No, sir. I had reduced rent.
Okay, and in exchange for that reduced rent, you're an officer there. In case something happens, you're the one that's going to take care of it, correct?
Well, I mean, when you say something happens, if there's a lockout, if somebody's locked out of their apartment and they call me, yes, I take care of it. You know, if there's trespassers at the pool and they call me, yes, I take care of it. If there's noise violations, yes, I take care of it. So yes,
Okay, and
that answers your question.
what I'd ask you is illegal activity, and so that's all illegal activity, correct?
I suppose, yes, sir.
Okay, as is smoking marijuana, correct?
The possession of marijuana is illegal, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, prior to March 2nd, you had never been summoned to that particular apartment number, had you?
No, sir.
As a result, I think you told General Newman of the office calling you, you showed up over there, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Miss Madden came to the door,
Yes.
right? And I think you said she invited you in.
Yes.
She didn't appear to be trying to hide anything.
No, sir.
And did you smell marijuana?
I didn't personally smell marijuana inside the apartment, no, sir.
Now, you said you've been a undercover officer
I did work narcotics, yes, sir.
in Decker,
Yes.
and marijuana's got a real distinct odor, don't it?
Yes, sir, it does.
And you're aware, you were there before the detectives, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that all the detectives had a strong smell of marijuana. You aware of that?
No, sir, I'm not. I didn't go up to the apartment after I left, so I don't know what they did after I left.
Okay. So, and you said Miss Stewart came out. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes, sir.
While you were talking to Miss Madden.
Yes.
And starts volunteering. I'm the one that called the office.
Well, she didn't
Correct.
volunteer that information in front of Miss Madden. She told me that when I sent Miss Madden to get her friend out of the bedroom. Yes.
Well, isn't that all basically one large area?
No, the bedrooms are separate than the living room.
Well, I understand they're partitioned off, but once you step out of the living room, you're at the bedroom area, correct?
There's a bedroom, and then there's a hallway, and then there's separate bedrooms. So I
Right.
can't testify to, if she heard Tina Stewart say I'm the one that called her or not. She didn't say it very loud. She was saying it to me, and I immediately told her to be quiet.
Did she whisper it?
I don't think she whispered it, and I don't think she yelled it.
And she stayed right in that area, didn't she?
In the living room area?
Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Beside the kitchen?
The living room is separated from the kitchen by a bar area, but yes, sir.
I mean, it's all right there together, right?
I mean, it's within the same unit.
Well, let's just be honest. It's as close to me to you.
The kitchen to the living room?
Yes, sir?
I could agree to that.
I mean, and other than a bar area, that's all that separates the two of them, correct?
I mean, I don't know, you know, how particular you're wanting to get as far as the separation, but there's a bar area, there's wall above it, and there's wall below it. So, I mean, it's separated by a wall, and there's a hole cut in the wall for a bar. Yes, sir.
And the truth is, if I was standing in the kitchen at the sink right now, and you were sitting on the couch that we saw in that picture, that'd be about the distance of those two,
That
wouldn't
would be correct, yes, sir.
it? Now, you said you asked Miss Madden if you could search her room.
Yes, that's correct.
She allowed you to search her room,
Yes, sir.
and you found marijuana.
No.
Well, you found a roach.
I found what I believed to be a roach, but I couldn't confirm that it was because it didn't smell like burned marijuana.
Well, can you ever confirm it until you send it off to the lab, any drug?
I would say with 100% certainty you would want a lab expert, but you know, if it doesn't smell, as you said earlier, marijuana has a very distinct odor. It didn't have that odor, so, and it was very small. I don't know if I sent it to the lab if they could have gotten any test results off of it or not.
But we'll never know, will we?
I guess we won't.
Because you flushed it.
I didn't flush it.
Well, you told the girls to flush it.
I told them to get rid of it.
And if it was marijuana, that would be destruction of evidence, wouldn't it?
I don't believe it was ever considered evidence. So, I mean, it's not evidence unless it's collected by the police.
You don't see people get arrested every single day for a roach in their car?
I mean, I'm not on the streets every single day, so I can't answer that question.
You ain't never arrested anybody for a roach in their car?
You know, I don't recall all my past cases, so.
Now, while you were there and Miss Madden returns into the room, you've said Miss Stewart's still standing over there by the kitchen area. Who were you talking to?
When Miss Madden came back into the living room,
Yes, sir.
one, I don't think I ever said Miss Stewart was standing by the kitchen. When she came out from her bedroom, and I sent Miss Madden back to the bedroom to get her friend out so I could talk to all three ladies, Miss Stewart started to say, "I'm the one that called." I immediately told her to be quiet and to go back to her room. Then Miss Madden came back out with her friend, and I said, "Is bedroom A yours?" Because, you know, obviously I saw Tina Stewart come from bedroom B. She said, "Yes." I said, "That's the room that I had the complaint about. Do you care if I search?" She said that was fine.
Okay. So to kind of put this in perspective, your back would have been to the front door.
Yes, sir.
Miss Stewart would have been kind of off to your left.
She would have came straight down the hall. I would have been standing directly in front of the hall with my back to the front door. You're correct.
Okay, so if you're standing with your back to the front door, I just want to identify where everybody was.
Yeah, that's
Where
fine.
would Miss Madden have been? In front of you?
When she returned to the room,
Yes, sir.
she would have been in front of me, yes.
Okay. And where was Miss Reese?
I'm guessing that's Miss Madden's friend that was there that night. Because the only reason I asked is because I don't remember her name exactly.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, let me say it this way. There was another young lady there.
Yes.
Okay, and where would she have been?
She would have been standing either on the left or right of Miss Madden. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, and Miss Stewart would have been standing some distance away?
I already sent her back to her room.
Okay. Did you see Miss Stewart smile at Miss Madden?
No, I didn't.
You asked the other young lady to flush the roach.
I told her to get rid of it.
Now, let me ask you this about is any small cigar called a roach? What makes a roach a roach?
You know, I guess different people call things different things by different names. A roach to me would be a marijuana roach, and that's why I put in my report I found what I believe to be but I couldn't confirm that it was that
Okay.
because of the smell.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't calling just a small little bit end of a cigar a roach.
Okay.
So you're saying a roach would be marijuana?
What I believe to be a marijuana roach, yes.
And you could have arrested Miss Madden for that, couldn't you?
No, sir.
You can't arrest somebody for a roach.
No, sir. It would have been a misdemeanor citation in lieu of arrest. If it had been a marijuana roach, which I don't think it was, she would have gotten a misdemeanor citation.
Is that the policy of the Murfreesboro Police Department, that if somebody gets caught with a misdemeanor amount of marijuana, that they don't go to jail?
That's not Murfreesboro's policy. I mean, it's in the TCA code. You misdemeanor citation in lieu of arrest unless circumstances prevent you. Miss Madden had an ID. I knew who she was, where she lived, and I had no reason to believe the crime was going to continue of smoking marijuana, so she would have been issued a misdemeanor citation.
Well, that's an option. You can issue a citation, or you could arrest somebody and take them to jail. That's your option.
Now, you issue the misdemeanor citation unless other circumstances prevent you from doing that.
Or you could do nothing, flush it,
I
correct?
suppose that's an option as well.
And that's the one you exercised, isn't it, sir?
Well, if I would have identified it as marijuana, I would have written her a citation.
In your testimony, you didn't even smell any marijuana, correct?
Correct.
And you gave a statement in this case, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I think you told the...
Yes, when I went back that night, yes.
Okay. And you wouldn't have written a statement at all had there not been some subsequent activity in the apartment that caused you to go back. Is that right?
No, sir. I don't think that I would have.
And is it true in your statement it says, I made a quick look around bedroom A and observed what I believe to be a marijuana roach in quotation marks?
Yes, sir.
Those are my questions.
All right.
I'm going to ask you to finish what he just read. He just asked you about part of it. It says, I made a quick room around bedroom A and observed what I believe to be a marijuana roach. That's what he asked you, didn't he?
That's correct.
He didn't ask you the rest of it, did he?
No, sir.
I don't know if you can see it, officer. Sometimes you can look at these other screens and you get to see it better.
Right up here, sir, it's easier to read on the big screen over there.
Okay. Thank you,
Can
sir.
you see that?
Yes, sir.
Said a quick look around bedroom A and observed what I believe to be a marijuana roach. He left off the butt, didn't he?
Yes.
But due to the fact it did not smell like burnt marijuana, I had the resident throw it away.
That's correct.
That's the complete statement, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now, he questioned you a whole lot about smelling marijuana, not smelling marijuana. Would you agree with me? Sense of smell is kind of like sense of humor. Different people have different abilities in that area.
Yes, sir.
Now, as far as hearing, you said the distance was somewhere around this distance, right?
Just an approximate, yes. I've never measured it, so I don't know exactly, but in an approximate from what I can remember.
You know, on direct examination, I never asked you about a diagram, did I?
No, sir.
Did you hear me ask the detective here to give me his diagram while you were sitting there and we were this distance away?
No, sir, I didn't.
I want to show you the diagram. Okay, this says specifically this is not to scale, right? But does that accurately depict the layout of that apartment as you remember it in 321?
Yes, sir, I would say it does.
So we got the kitchen area here. You got, and I don't know if you can read this or not, laundry room area.
Yes, sir.
There, is that the counter you were talking about?
Yes, sir, that would be the bar area.
Living room.
Yes.
Was there a sofa in the living room?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe there was a sofa in the living room.
Okay.
Yes.
And then there's a hallway.
Yes.
And these, where it's kind of curved here, that's generally an indication of a door, is that correct?
Yes.
And that says Miss Madden's room.
Yes.
And that says bathroom, which belongs to Miss Madden. And then if you go just a little further down, you've got Miss Stewart's room. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
A closet and a door for the bathroom.
I never actually went into Miss Stewart's room, so I can't guarantee that that's where the closet or bathroom is, but yes, generally that's the layout.
Okay. Now, as far as these apartments, you say they're A and B. The separate tenants who stay there, I call them the apartment mates, they're in private bedrooms, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the bedroom has what I call a keyed lock. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, on the doorknob.
Yeah, and when I say a keyed lock, it's like a lock that you'd have to pull out your key, put it in, much like you go in the front door of your house.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So in this particular apartment complex, you've got a common area that both people have access to, which would be the kitchen and the living room. And then you got private areas. For Miss Madden, it would be her bedroom and her bathroom. And for Miss Stewart, it'd be her bedroom and her bathroom.
That's
And
correct.
they would have the ability to lock each other out of their private areas.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You know, we'd like to make that an exhibit.
Okay, that'll be 6.
Yes, sir.
Okay, exhibit number 6.
Just from your training and experience, did you see any reason at that particular time that based on the amount, that there was a likelihood that justified you taking the time and the expense to send that amount to the TBI and have the money spent to examine that?
As far as the
roach.
The roach,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an officer of the law, and if I had seen what I even believe to be marijuana, which we often classify as a green leafy substance, inside of that brown paper, I probably would have sent it off, just because, that's the law. However, it was just paper. I saw no plant-like substance, no green leafy-like substance in the paper. I smelled it. It didn't smell like burned marijuana, so no.
And looking back on it, now that you realize what everything has happened, would you change anything you did that night, or would you still do it the same way?
Honestly, I think I would still do it the same way. I don't know that there's anything I could have done different.
The other thing that I'd like to do is make his statement a exhibit. I did put it on the screen.
Any objection to that?
No, sir.
Okay, that'll be the next number, exhibit 7.
6.
Yeah, I believe those would be my questions.
Okay, other question, Mr. Brad?
So Officer Jensen, with General Newman's last question, is there a certain amount of marijuana you're allowed to possess in the state of Tennessee and not be in violation of the law?
No, sir.
And we're never going to know in this particular case because you flushed it, correct?
I didn't flush it, no, sir.
Well, you directed an individual in the apartment to flush what you found, what appeared to be a burnt marijuana roach, correct?
When I initially observed it, as I said in my statement, I observed what I believe to be a marijuana roach. Upon further examination, I didn't think that's what it was. There was no marijuana residue on it that I could tell. There was no marijuana smell to it that I could tell. And I simply told her, it doesn't look good, get rid of it.
You thought it was a cigar paper, didn't you?
It looked like a cigar paper.
And nothing else, right?
Upon further investigation, I would have to agree with you, yes.
But we're still not ever going to know because you directed an individual to flush it, correct?
I didn't tell her to flush it.
You didn't.
I told her to get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Other questions, Mr. Newman?
Sometimes an officer has to use some common sense, doesn't he?
That's true.
And is that what you think you were doing in that particular occasion?
I would like to think so, yes, sir.
As you sit here today, can you think of any reason why Mr. Brandon would want his client arrested?
No.
Other questions, Mr. Brad?
No, sir.
Any questions from our jurors? Not saying anything, thanks, sir. You can step down.
Thank you.
Step forward and free to go.